So you may be asking who are intersex children. There are three physical main variations of intersex children, like the genitalia of intersex children. Many times there are no genitalia at all, or either there are both genitalia present, or the third combination is like there is one genitalia outside and there is another undeveloped genitalia or organ inside the abdomen. That can be only recognized after diagnosis. So these are the physical variations. Very few, 20 out of 1,000, children are born with intersex variations. Apart from these physical variations, there are also children born with chromosomal variations, XX, YY. You all know the girl child and how boy child are born. There are 33 such permutations and combinations of chromosomes, XX, YYY, one more chromosome added. So the nature has made sex as very diverse. It's not in binary. Many years, from ages and ages, the transgender community has been kept on the verges of the community or society and pushed to the verges of this society. That's why they are kept away from, formal education system and also formal employment systems. Many of the non-trans person or children have been abducted by the community, and they have been forced them into the begging or sex work, and also often they are forcing them to sex change surgeries also. I'll be speaking about the legal landscape of India regarding transgender people, not only transgender people, but also the LGBTQIA communities, because that will ensure the living realities of the communities. I would like to start the session with the basics of sex, sexuality, and gender, because many of us from our childhood have a confusion and conflation among these, words of sex, sexuality, and gender. So very precisely, I would like to explain. This is called the gender bread. We usually use this to make people understand the difference between sex, sexuality, and gender. Sex is a biological thing, which is by birth the child or we all will, born with. So it is recognized by the organs which the baby is born with, either male, female. But we don't know about, many of us don't know about intersex children also born. So you may be asking who are intersex children. There are three physical main variations of intersex children, like the genitalia of intersex children. Many times there are no genitalia at all, or either there are both genitalia present, or the third combination is like there is one genitalia outside and there is another undeveloped genitalia or organ inside the abdomen. That can be only recognized after diagnosis. So these are the physical variations. Very few, 20 out of 1,000, children are born with intersex variations. Apart from these physical variations, there are also children born with chromosomal variations, XX, YY. You all know the girl child and how boy child are born. There are 33 such permutations and combinations of chromosomes, XX, YYY, one more chromosome added, based on which the intersex children also identified. So the nature has made sex as very diverse. It's not in binary. It's not always, boy or the girl. Can be intersex. If it is not physical, it can be by the chromosomal, combinations. So that is all regarding sex. Now moving to the sexuality or sexual orientation. This is the attraction between the two people. That can be of same sex, that can be of opposite sex. And we may only know about the attraction or the love between opposite sexes, but there also exists love or the affection between same sex also. So sexual orientation is that how a person feels sexually towards other person, irrespective of whatever sex they are born in. That is called a sexual orientation, and that is called the sexuality also, how they are identifying with. Coming to the last, what is gender identity, gender expression? What is gender at all, like overall? So the gender is the socio-political construct which society gives to us because it come out of the gender roles which society decides. What men will wear, what men will eat, or what work men will do, and what not to do. And the same way, what women will do and what women should not do. All these, decided by the society. So they are called the gender roles. So depending on that, like if a transgender person, then who is a transgender person, you may ask? A transgender person is a one who is confused because they are born in one sex, like male or female, but their brain is identify themselves in the opposite, sex. In that way, if a male person who is born in male sex with male genitalia, if they identify psychologically in their brain as a woman, so which is an opposite sex, then their gender is trans woman. And the vice versa, if a woman who is born in the sex like female and identify the gender next born the sex as a female, but in brain somewhere she identify herself as a male, as a man, then she is a trans man. So these are the stereotyping again, like binary is always stereotyped. What I mean is that if a transgender people are left to choose their own gender, if they have that convenience, they might not choose either male or female, and because they have no choice to choose their gender, and because their gender roles are not defined by the society, they're forced to, not every time, but few times they are forced to identify themselves into binary. So that's the crux of the whole sex, sexuality, and gender. In our country, 2014, there was a historical judgment which is called NALSA versus Union of India. This is judgment given based on a public interest litigation by Pujya Mata Nasibji Kaurji Women Welfare Society and famous transgender kinner activist Lakshmi Narayan Tripathi. And it was delivered by two judges bench, who is Justice K.S. Panikar Radhakrishnan and Justice Anjan Kumar Sikri. So this whole judgment, the crux of the judgment is that this judgment gives the transgender people of this country the fundamental rights, saying that the fundamental rights are available for the transgender people also in the same manner as they are available to the males or females, which means the basic constitutional freedoms or rights which are enshrined in 14, 15, 16, and 21 articles of the Constitution of India are equally applicable for the transgender people, which means again, the transgender people have their choice to choose the gender which they wanted to live in. And they have a right against discrimination or prohibition, and prohibition to access to various facilities. And also they have life to dignity, right also, as which is also enshrined in Article 21 of the Constitution of India. So Supreme Court of India have said that many years, from ages and ages, the transgender community has been kept on the verges of the community or society and pushed to the verges of this society. That's why they are kept away from, formal education system and also formal employment systems. And that's how they are being forced to live in poverty, immense poverty. And that's why, because the gender roles are not defined culturally also, they are construed for only to do two livelihood options, which is till present, they have only two livelihood options. One is begging and one is sex work. So non-recognition of transgender or third gender in both criminal and civil statutes, such as those related to marriage, adoption, divorce, and discriminatory to the third gender. This judgment also have few exceptions. That's what this line says. The Supreme Court of India said that the transgender people have the constitutional rights, but their marriage rights, adoption rights, property, and all other civil rights will be dealt later. That's what the Supreme Court of India said. 2014 Supreme Court of India NALSA judgment, which is called the third gender judgment also. Private members bill has been introduced in the Rajya Sabha The private member is Tiruchi Shiva, who is also an MP, member of Parliament of Rajya Sabha from DMK party, Tamil Nadu. He presented very soon after the judgment of Supreme Court a private member's bill in Rajya Sabha. And he prescribed these things to be included in the bill and should be passed as a transgender act. So main provisions of this bill are like reservation in private and public sector up to 2%. Designated transgender courts must be there to overall see all the cases of transgender people, and transgender commissions to be established similar to SC/ST, women commissions at national and state level. Designated employment exchanges for transgender people should be there. No transgender child should be removed from the family without due process in competent court. So many of the transgender children have been kept away from their families, natural families, because they are born as a transgender, or gender non-conforming children. Means a boy or a girl who are born in their sex, like, boy and girl, but they identify in the opposite sex, those children are disowned by the many of the families. So Tiruchi Shiva has put a provision in his bill that a competent court must take decision, must where the child must be kept, like, with the family or not. And penalty of 1 year imprisonment and 1 lakh for the hate speech against trans people. You all know that we all trans people face a lot of bullying and a lot of stigma, discrimination, and also oppression in terms of our gender identity. So Tiruchi Shiva has prescribed 1 year imprisonment if anyone has used any particular slurs like Koti, Chakka, Mamu, Good, and many more, like, Koja. All this, if anyone might have used those, they should be punished with 1 year imprisonment and 1 lakh, of penalty. This bill has been approved in the Indian Rajya Sabha in the upper house, but never been brought into the Lok Sabha for the discussion because the government of India have introduced another bill in 2016 in the parliament. So in 2016, the Transgender Persons Protection of Bill has been introduced, which goes off on the face of NALSA Judgment, which goes in the principles on which the NALSA Judgment has established, which are, like you all know, as I said, that constitutional, rights and freedom of which has been acknowledged by the Supreme Court of India for the transgender people of this country. For example, in this bill of 2016, the transgender has been defined as you all know, the Supreme Court said that the transgender persons have a right to choose their own gender. They may be identify themselves as a male, female, or transgender person. But this bill confines that only the intersex people or the intersex children, which are, as I said, which are born with both genitalia or neither of the genitalia or half genitalia outside and underdeveloped, only this bill recognize that those children are only, or those persons, intersex person are only the transgender persons. So that's the ignorance. And also the bill in 2016 provides for screening committee to determine the gender. So they prescribe a doctor, lawyer, social worker, state official, and 2 committee members. This board should be constituted in every state, and every single transgender person will go in front of this board and prove their gender in front of this board. That's another provision which 2016 will have, and provides no reservation in education and employment. One of the main facilities which has been provided by NALSA Judgment of 2014 is that Supreme Court of India said that because the transgender people cannot navigate through the formal system of education or employment, they must be provided with backward community status so that they can be provided reservations in formal education or employment systems. But that has not been acknowledged in this bill. Make it easier for families to transgender children, gender non-functional to state-run facilities. This bill directly prescribes that if any family has trans children or gender non-conforming children, they can be transferred to the state protection homes directly. That's what the bill says, which means now every single trans children who are born in any family will be directly, without any intervention of the court, will be transferred to the state-run homes, which is very inhuman, because child has no agency to live and no choice to live with their parents or the family, and they will be landed in the homes at the end of the day. And last not the least, criminalize begging and enticement of the begging. So the first 2016 bill has said that the transgender person should not beg, and they should not send any of the people associated with them to the begging, which is called the enticement of begging. So, which means like the government wanted to completely stop the begging, which is the only livelihood available for transgender people, without any steps have taken for their livelihood. Because which I means like 2014, the Supreme Court of India have delivered the transgender judgment, which is third judgment, saying and giving instructions, 12 instructions to the government of India and various governments to administer those 12 guidelines, just to bring change in the lives of the transgender people, like the reservation as a backward community, etc. The government has not implemented not even one in such instructions, but they wanted to criminalize within like 2 years. They want to criminalize the only source of income available for transgender people. So now what happened in 2016? There was a huge uproar and huge protest against this bill to change it. It's starting from Hyderabad and Telangana. The movement has been national wide and also international wide. And the World Health Professionals for Transgender Persons also written to the government of India, saying that this bill has to be drastically changed. This cannot be implemented in the way. So the government of India has sent it to a parliamentary standing committee. So that was the Delhi Pride of 2016, and which the bill has been protested. After 2016, that lot of protests until 2019, various more than 1,000 suggestions hit the Department of Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, which has drafted this bill and presented this bill in the parliament. And in 2019, after considering all the suggestions, major suggestions, the bill has become an act. It has been introduced in Lok Sabha in July 19 and passed in Lok Sabha in August, and in Rajya Sabha it has been passed in November 2019 and become an act which is named as Transgender Persons.